Okay, so first of all, relax. Take a deep breath, my friend. Ground yourself. Hey, hello, you come across my channel. My name is Isabel, and we're good. We're chilling. Today I want to talk about my quote unquote bad trip, and the reason why I refer to it as a, quote unquote bad trip, it's because years later, after fully integrating the experience, I've come to realize it was just a challenging experience. It wasn't a bad trip. Yeah, of course, you're gonna come across a lot of tough material that you have to work through, but at the end of the day, that's the part. That's why I call it a challenging trip, because it is a challenge. Also, another thing that I want to say is, disclaimer, I'm not here to glorify drugs. I'm not telling you what to do. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I want to share it, and that's just the way it is. And educational purposes, people, I think, are keen in these experiences, and I'm here to provide that. I'm here to provide my experience. Anyways, psychedelics for me have a very special place in my heart. And they play a big role in my life, just because they have taught me a lot, about myself, about me as an individual in the collective, and how I fit in the collective, and the game of life. It kind of like broadens your perspective, or at least that's what I've been able to take away with me. These technologies of ecstasy are powerful tools for self-discovery, transformation, and health. Indeed, for me, they've changed me. Definitely made me question things, ideas that I had, ideas that I've mistakenly identified myself with. That kind of like gave birth to the deconstruction of my character, the acknowledgement of my traumas, the confrontation with my ego, the existential angst, the ontological uncertainties. It's casual shit. It's like so. It's a lot. It's a lot to kind of work with, right? But having said that, all of that is good. All of that is beautiful, to be honest. But of course, there are some risks if psychedelics are not used in a proper container. They can harm you. They can harm you a lot. You can get like psychologically injured, if you will. And I do not say that lightly. I actually think it's really important for you to know that. People should know that, there are consequences, there are risks, of course, with every single thing that you do, but especially with this, just because you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable place, and you kind of have a more open or a more clear view of your psychological landscape. And if you don't know how to deal with it, or if you don't have somebody to guide you through it, you can get your ass whooped. Easy, just super easy like that. Without mentioning that there's 20% of people that should never fucking touch these substances at all. So like 10% of people, people that have like mental disorders like schizophrenia or bipolar disorders. Psychedelics, what they usually do is they introduce chaos. So like if you introduce more chaos to an already chaotic mind, you're not gonna fix anything. And the other 10% is people that have what is known in psychology as the Dark Triad, which is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. You should not give these substances to those people. And just so you know, very interesting fact, who are the people that share all of these? Politicians. They usually have these kinds of things. So that's actually a really interesting thing to know. Having said of that, they should not be taken lightly. And I think like in the psychedelic world, there's like a tendency to only point out at the good things. And don't get me wrong, I love psychedelics. That's why I talk about this. But I think we should talk about like these challenging trips or these bad trips. Just acknowledge the fact that they're there. They're there. Okay, so my experience. I have to say that it probably took me around 2 years to fully integrate the experience. The first 6 months, I was a complete mess. I was having the realization, the personalization. If you don't know what that is, I actually have a video about that, and you should definitely check it out. In a way, I was traumatized by this experience. What happened is this. I wasn't in a good mental space. I did have a good setting though. We even had a trip sitter, but the dosage, a lot of mushrooms were involved, and we kind of went crazy about it. For me, silly me, this was actually my second trip ever in my life. And because the very first trip went so well and it was so beautiful, I just thought, perhaps if I just do more mushrooms, it's gonna be even more beautiful. So what the fuck? I'm just gonna do it, right? I remember I took a cup of mushroom tea. I don't really exactly know how much I took, but I probably did around 5 grams of mushrooms, which is a lot, especially if you are someone like me, a small woman, you should not do those kinds of things. And also, I remember some cannabis was involved too, which of course enhanced the trip. Yeah, it kind of made it worse for me. So I remember we were chilling, we were hanging out, and it was like 4 of us, 3 of us, we were tripping, and the other person left was the trip sitter, the one that was supposed to take care of us. Anyways, I decided to kind of like just look out the window and just chill for a while. We were waiting for it to kick. I remember I was like staring at the grass, and suddenly, whoop, it kicks. The saturation of colors just blows my mind, and I go, guys, the grass is really green. The grass is really green. And everybody goes like, oh my God, yeah, it is really green. Then one of my friends, he asks me, hey, lay on the floor with me. So I lay on the floor with him. We stare at the ceiling, and then that's when I knew that we were already like, having the psychedelic experience, and it was so far so good. The ceiling looked gorgeous. It was kind of like, when you boil water, that you see the bubbles kind of like emerge? Well, the ceiling was kind of doing that, and every time like a bubble burst, it was a new color. So it was like yellow, red, orange, green, purple, blue, kind of like a wavy movement, kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. That was kind of like the visual level of it, and at the insight level, it was more like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Like, you're good, my child. Everything is going cool. Like this deep sense of okayness, which I loved. Also, I remember just like crying and laughing at the same time. It was euphoria, just pure bliss, feeling very connected, very grounded, very grateful about everything. So yeah, after that, it's like, I'm just gonna stand up for a bit, and I went and I looked out the window again, right? It was already nighttime, right? And I look at the sky, I look at the stars, and they seem beautiful. They just are gorgeous, right? And suddenly I realized that the stars are moving. They're kind of like dancing. And I go like, oh my God, what's this? This is really interesting. This is beautiful. And suddenly the stars become like these giants. And these giants kind of like look at me and they're like, hey, what's up? Like, we're here. I'm like, what's going on? And they start dancing with the flow of the earth or the planet. I don't know. I really enjoyed their show. It was beautiful. I also remember seeing like this kind of like beam of light coming from the earth into this kind of like source in space, and that source in space would act as a kind of like disco ball and would reflect that energy towards different places. That was really intense. Then I remember I was like, you know what? I wonder what it looks like if like I close my eyes, and I close my eyes, and I start seeing like, you know, like sacred geometry, like super intense patterns going on and beautiful colors. And then I open my eyes and I'm like, oh my God, this is just like way too much. I felt as if somebody was folding me, like the way you will fold a pair of jeans. Like I felt like somebody was like folding me in that way. I even remember, and this was, I think, one of the things that kind of like tripped me the most. Have you seen The Matrix, the movie? That Neo kind of like, when he's like all super whatever the fuck, he sees the numbers like going up and down of the Matrix. I saw like numbers going up and down just like that. I'm like, oh my God, so reality is not real? Excuse me? And that was intense. Afterwards, I wanted to go to the bathroom. So I gotta go to the bathroom, right? Obviously, I sit on the toilet and I have in front of me a wall. And I just kind of keep staring at this wall, right? Suddenly, the wall starts melting in front of me. And I go, oh my God, I've never seen this before. Because of course, I was comparing this experience with my first trip. And I was like, oh my God, like it is true what people say, like walls start dripping, start melting. But even so, it's not even accurate. The way the wall dissolves or melts, it's have you seen sacred geometry? There's like this beautiful flower pattern, and this pattern, you can see it all over the place, kind of like overlapping itself and kind of like moving, right? And that's how you kind of see the illusion that the wall is melting in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of the best way I have to explain it. But anyways, I keep staring at the wall and I see, you know, these patterns, and these patterns just become even more beautiful. It's like, okay, this is really interesting. Keep in mind, I'm still sitting on the toilet, right? I'm really focused, I'm really aware of these patterns. They kind of like dissipate for like a second, and I get to see these elves, and I immediately go like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck? And these elves, these entities, whatever you want to call them, realized that I was able to see them. They kind of like talk to me. The funny thing is, like, these creatures, they didn't communicate with words. It's kind of like a thought. It's kind of like you understand them. It's just like a mind connection that you have with them. It's like a new form of communication. And they go to me like, hey, hello, like, welcome, what are you doing here? This is great that we get to hang out with you. Come and hang with us, like, have fun. This is so fun. And I'm like, oh my God, these beings are so fucking cool. Of course I'm gonna hang out with you guys. Just having fun, like, talking to them, and they were like showing me like these beautiful things that they were doing. And all these little things were kind of like full of meaning and significance, and I was really just having a really good time. Then I kind of like realized that I was still sitting on the toilet. I go like, oh my God, yeah, I'm probably, you know, they must be worried, and I'm just like here hanging out with my new friends. So I go outside and I lay on the floor with my friend again. I kind of, come back to the rhythm of the trip again, I see this feminine entity, and she was very beautiful, and she seemed very nature-like. I don't know. I like to think that she was kind of like the representation of nature, or at least she had something to do with it. But because I was paying attention to her, I kind of like forgot about my elf friends, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm not paying attention to you. They were like, oh, but like hang out with us. I'm like, yeah, I wanna hang out with you guys, but like I'm really interested in this. Suddenly in me, I had this thought, kind of just like popped. It's like, what if they trying to like steal my energy? And that was the fucking turn. They were like, oh, so you think that about us? You think that about us? Well, fuck you, bro. And I'm like, no, like it was just a thought. It's like, no, you don't trust us, you don't trust us, you don't trust us. You have to understand, at that level, the smallest of things can literally send you to hell. And that's kind of what happened in a way. So yeah, kind of like have this argument with these beings, and I'm like, oh my god, like what's going on? Because I start feeling really terrible. I have this huge anxiety, just this sensation on my chest. Everything's kind of getting like narrow and like more tight and tense, and I felt awful. Suddenly they go like, oh, we're gonna show you. I'm like, they're gonna show me what? And then I kind of like passed out, kind of like black out, and I had this very cinematic scene where I was at a friend's house, and we were doing all sorts of drugs, and they basically showed me how I died. And I could see it as clear as, as you would watch a movie. I would see myself, kind of like overdosed, laying dead on a table. And these beings, they told me like, dude, if you don't stop doing drugs, if you don't stop behaving the way you're behaving, this is how you're gonna end up. I saw like the picture of me kind of like laying, and then I just kind of like zoom in, and then everything went black. I was like nowhere. I didn't have awareness of me, my body, my mind, nothing. I was just like nothing. Completely, I disappeared. Then everything becomes white, and then I kind of like come back, like, what the fuck? And then I was like, what's my name? Who am I? I could not remember my name. And I got really, really scared. I was terrified. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I remember picking up my phone and like just like looking at pictures of me, my family, my friends, and I couldn't retrieve their names. I couldn't remember their names. I couldn't remember who they were or who I was. And I don't remember exactly how long that lasted, but it lasted for like a good couple of minutes, and I was just losing my shit. All of this was happening, and I had my friend, the trip sitter, literally sitting right next to me, but because I didn't say anything, he couldn't help me out. And that was the moment, after everything that happened, that was the moment that I said to him, like, yo dude, I think I'm having a bad trip. And he goes like, what do you need? Do you need water? What do you need? He was very lovely. I love him, bro. If you're watching this, I love you. But I was really scared. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life before. Anyways, So I go to him like, I think I'm having a bad trip. I feel bad. I feel something's wrong. Can you take me home? Then he takes me home, and in the car, something that I haven't been able to shake off that. Like, I just haven't. He goes to me, hey, Isabel, did you realize about the portal in the bathroom on the wall? And I'm like, what do you mean? Keep in mind, my friend, he did take like a small amount of mushrooms so he could like empathize with us, but he wasn't as high as we were. And for me, that kind of was a revelation. It's like, oh my God, like everything is connected. He saw something, and I saw something there too. That was the wall where I saw the elves. Oh my God, like he saw that, like, and I didn't say anything to him. So for me, it's something that it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. There's definitely something going on in here. Anyways, I get home and I try to sleep, but of course I can't because I'm still tripping. Wait for it to just be over. The next morning, I wake up with this horrible sensation that I did something that I just couldn't take back. That I've done something terrible. And not only that, I also had this feeling that these beings, these elves, were kind of like looking at me, or they could like read my mind, or or something. Like I was just being watched. I felt really uncomfortable. I went outside because I just wanted to calm myself down. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a walk. And so I'm walking, and I see that trees, bushes, flowers still have that very, oversaturated color. Like nature seems very vivid. And I'm like, I'm not tripping anymore. Like by now I should not be seeing these types of colors. Like I shouldn't. It's not normal. Just so you know, ever since that trip, the way I look at nature, the way I see colors completely change. Nature, to me, it looks alive. It looks more vibrant than it has ever looked before. The following months, instead of, for me being like, oh my God, this is really cool. Like now I get to see nature for what it truly is, or whatever the fuck. It was more like, oh, I literally fucked up my brain. I went crazy, and I just can't take it back. I won't go back to normal. Whoop, this is when we go back. That's what I was saying, that I was having the personalization, the realizations, to the point that I just couldn't tell apart. I thought I was dead because I saw myself die, and I thought this reality wasn't real. This is not real. Everything felt like a dream. I would look at myself in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. Like, yeah, I would definitely know that, oh yeah, indeed, that is me, because I know it is me. It has always been me, but it doesn't feel like it is me. Those months for me were very challenging to navigate, because, oh well, did I just lost it? Did I just, did I just literally fucked myself over? What am I supposed to do? Right? For a couple months, I remember I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna repress it. This never happened. But of course, how can you repress something like that when I would like go out and see how this tree is very fucking green? I couldn't repress it properly. I think it was like 2 months later. Yeah, 2 months later, I had a dream, and that particular dream had the same visuals that I had in that trip, and that kind of like triggered a panic attack, and I woke up completely drenched in sweat. It's like, oh my God, I'm afraid again. I'm really fucking afraid. what the fuck's going on. In that moment, I knew that I had like two choices that I could either take. Like, how am I gonna look at it? How am I gonna deal with this? How am I gonna embrace this? How am I gonna resolve this problem that I have? I could either go through like a clinical process or take it as a spiritual emergency. A little bit of both. That's more or less what I did. I went to therapy because I needed to kind of like have a grounded perspective of what happened, and talking to my therapist, God bless her, was so good because she would be able to reflect back to me all the things that I was telling her, because you have to understand that, yeah, perhaps these beings are a real thing, but they're also connected to a part of like your unconscious. You're definitely seeing your psyche. There's also like the spiritual side of it too. It's like, oh, what is this? What is this teaching me? What is this coming from? What can I learn from it? Long story short, that trip was probably the thing that made me more interested in psychedelics and the spiritual journey, because I had to go to such extents to just like work through my traumas. Like, that trip revealed a lot about my childhood traumas, revealed to me a lot of my things that I thought that kind of like dealt with, but like not. Plus the part that I died, like I was confronted with my death. I don't know if I could call it an ego death, but it kind of was. And the thing is, like, my ego wouldn't let go, wouldn't surrender. So that's why I have that kind of like tragic death in a way. But it also showed me like, hey, you've been reckless and you definitely have to take care of yourself. What the fuck are you doing? Kind of like a wake up call. To me, it was like, fuck, either I repress all of this, completely disregard it, and go crazy, or I literally just go through it and work with all the material that I've been given and just grow. Because this is just me. I could be completely fucking wrong, but you have to work through the material. You have to work with it. Because if you don't, you're gonna go crazy. You're gonna go crazy. To clarify, when I say you're gonna go crazy, I don't mean that you're gonna go crazy like, no. It's the anxiety, the depression, the neurosis. It's gonna get so intense that you're not gonna be able to move like a regular individual in this life. Okay, let's go. And to be honest, for the longest time, for like a good period, like 6 months, I thought I went completely crazy. I would get into a room and just like, oh my God, somebody's watching me. You're like, what? Like, what's a pillow? Like, I don't, basic concepts. I just like couldn't wrap my head around them. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is not real. Like, why are we doing this? This is a fucking joke. So I was in a really, really dark place. Thanks to therapy, thanks to spiritual practices. By the way, one of the reasons why I started my meditation practice, it's because of that experience. Because I needed something to ground me. I needed something to come back to. And for me, meditation has been that, has been that tool to kind of like ground myself and connect with myself and connect with the divine, whatever you want to call it. Overall, that experience humbled me because you're not always gonna get what you want from the trip, but you are gonna get what you need. And again, for me, the concept of these, especially the mushroom, being a teacher, that experience taught me so much about myself. It definitely showed me how strong I am, just because I almost went fucking psychotic, and I was able to be here. And although I was terrified, because I was, for me it was urgent to find something, to find solace, to find a way out. I always had that knowledge that I could go through that. I can do it. Like, it's really tough, and I want to cry all the time. I want to be dead, but like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I know there's something that I gotta go back to that experience. The process of integrating was really challenging, because months later, I'm telling you, probably a year later, I will, be in the shower and suddenly, like, oh my God, like, oh, that's what it meant. Like, this is what it meant. Like, oh, this is the reference to this specific thing that happened in my childhood, or this is the representation of this person in my life, or like that situation was the representation of this specific part of my life, or or the people that I should stay away from. That's why I recommend write everything down, or what I do is I record myself during the trip, and after the trip I usually just journal about it. I tell people about my experience, and they kind of are my mirrors in a way, or even this. Although it's been years ever since that happened, when I talk about this, like, I get kind of like glimpses again of like, oh yeah, I remember that lesson. I remember that. That's what it meant. And that experience probably gave me one of the biggest nuggets of wisdom. That is the importance of every single level, spiritual, mental, and physical. It's like, oh my God, I have to take care of my body, because this is my vehicle, the vehicle which I navigate this experience. Is like in my mind, okay, like how the way I think affects the things that go around, and my spirit. Like, am I being authentic? Am I being genuine? Am I bringing light into this world? What am I doing? Every single level is connected. At the end of the day, everything that you do, and everything that you see, everything that you experience will reveal a truth about yourself. And I got nothing else to say for this video, I guess. It's already a pretty long video. Having said all of that, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you like it. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and just leave me a message down below in the comment section. If you have any questions, just like, don't be afraid, just ask me. I'm here. Hope you have a beautiful day. Peace. Love you all.